Today on Commander Replay, Sylvia and Khorvath have returned and look to rain death from above on our opponents. Will we be the last shadow that Aurelia, Tariel, and General Tazri ever see? Find out next on Commander Replay. Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Khorvath Bright Flame and Sylvia Bright Spear, and today I am joined by 3 of my Patreon supporters. So we will be facing off against Khorvath, who will be playing Aurelia. Well, since they're a Patreon of mine, I suppose they have a very well-informed Aurelia deck, so that could be very scary. Next up, we have Birchie84. I've actually featured 2 of Birchie's deck lists on the channel. One in the Mono White Challenge, and one for, I can't remember why now, but it was the Khorvath and Regna deck, because he built a really sweet version of it, and it was almost exactly the build that I was gonna make with it, so yeah, that was cool. Then we have Doc Hawk, a new Patreon supporter, playing General Tazri, a pretty good commander. So I kept this hand because it has Blasphemous Act, and Blasphemous Act I think is going to be pretty helpful against a lot of what our opponents have going on. We are going to start with this Valakut. Good question of whether we'll ever get enough mountains to make this Valakut worth it, and or if I should just cut it from the deck, to be determined on that. But as I mentioned, we're playing Khorvath Bright Flame and Sylvia Bright Spear. So Sylvia is 2 and a white for a 2/2, has double strike, and says dragons your team controls have double strike. And that's primarily what we're focused on today, is getting a bunch of dragons into play, giving them double strike. And then finally we have Khorvath Bright Flame, who is 5 and a red for a 3/4 with flying and haste. And it says knights your team controls have flying and haste. Khorvath a little bit less important, but it is still cool that it is a dragon that our plan is to give double strike, and we can do all of that from the command zone. Primarily our goal will try to be to get some of the other big heavy hitting dragons down and give those double strike, but if we run out of things to do for any reason, Khorvath's still available to us in the command zone, so nice thing to have. From what I've seen from this deck so far, I actually really like what it can do. The fact that you have a guaranteed 3-drop with double strike is really good in Boros, and then you have big stuff that you can give double strike to follow it up later. I really, really like what all of that means. Here, play the Wooded Foothills, crack the Wooded Foothills, and we'll get the Sacred Foundry tapped. I'm not going to play the Dragon Outcast right here, since I know that we're probably going to need a Blasphemous Act at some point anyway. Might as well just hang on to it to the late game where we actually have 6 or more lands. Then we basically force our opponent into having to use removal on it, or we start getting a whole lot of dragons. So opponent's going to lay down a Stoneforge Mystic, and let's see what they go get. It's a Sword of the Animist. A fine call. I would go for a Sword of the Animist right now. Did we talk about Tariel at all? I don't think we talked about the other 2 opponents at all. I introduced who they were. Didn't talk about their decks. Next up, we have a Tariel Reckoner of Souls. Interesting commander. It always tends to be just a little bit slow. At 7 mana and a random ability that requires your opponents to have stuff in the graveyard, I've never had great success with it. But there's still a lot of interesting things that you can do in Mardu anyway. The Tariel decks that I've seen have success usually aren't focused super hard on getting Tariel into play. It's usually some sort of like Mardu control kind of thing, and then if you happen to cast your commander late in the game, you do have access to it. It has a fairly big body on it and an ability that can be useful, so that's a Hada Freeblade coming down for the General Tazri. So looks like the General Tazri actually on allies. With a 5-color deck, you never really know. You won't typically use General Tazri for like other random 5-color shenanigans. You probably use like Horde of Notions or one of the Slivers or something, but you never know. But anyway, it does look like they are actually on allies today. That's a very powerful deck. So before they hit that critical mass of allies, they're definitely going to want to lay down the Blasphemous Act. Right here, I think it's going to be Clifftop Retreat and play the Fervor. We don't have anything to equip onto Sylvia Bright Spear right now, so I think we can wait a turn on it. Rather get the Fervor down, and that way anything we play afterwards will have haste, and that will be pretty good. I'd have to say that Fervor is probably a little bit underused. There are plenty of decks that can make great use of giving haste to all your stuff. I know it's just a touch clunky at 3, especially when you have things like Lightning Greaves and Dragon Tempest for flyers at 2 mana, but man, just giving all your stuff haste for 3 mana. Pretty good ability, and doesn't show up nearly as much as you'd expect it to. So opponent's going to cast their Sword of the Animist. Does not have enough to equip it. And looks like they might be stuck on lands. They missed their 3rd land drop. They'll be able to make that up next turn, probably. Still looks like it might have been a slightly risky keep right there. Ooh, the new Sacred Foundry. Haven't actually checked out the art all that much on the new Sacred Foundry. Are there multiple arts? Did I hear that somewhere? I don't know. I haven't actually played that much Guilds of Ravnica yet. Courthaven for the Tariel opponent. That kind of feeds into the notion that they might be playing some sort of like control and or pillow fort kind of deck, where their job is just kind of stay alive and do some big stuff at the end of the game. Corehaven is a card that I need to start playing more. I always kind of forget about it, and it's a really powerful thing to have access to, especially later in a game when you have open mana and there's big threats on board. And I really like it because it's not Maze of Ith. It does make mana for you if you need it to, so Maze of Ith can be a little bit of a trade-off. It is powerful, but it does cost you a land drop, in which you do not get to make mana right away, unless, of course, you have Urborg out. So totally getting punished for going Fervor last turn instead of Sylvia. There's our Sword of the Animist, so that's annoying. So play the Plains, and I guess we play Sylvia right here, and then eat the 1. Again, still not going to play Dragon Master or Outcast, going to wait till we have enough lands in play, and wait till after we've seen a few board wipes, including the one in our hand, which we will probably need. I'm going to give a little swing back into the General Tazri, because that's a really powerful deck. I'm pretty sure all of these are probably really powerful decks, and that's not something that I actually run into all that much on Magic Online. Magic Online decks tend to be fairly unbalanced. They'll usually be like one pretty strong deck in a game, then the 2 other ones maybe not, or maybe they get off to a bad start or whatever the case is. When I play at the shop, at least with some of the groups that I play in, everyone has a strong deck, so it's like you can't just focus someone down. Whenever you have removal, you have to shoot whatever the worst thing on board is, and it'll put that player a little bit behind, and then the next player will play something crazy. You just kind of go around in a circle until the removal is gone, and eventually something sticks, and then, someone's deck really gets going. So Stoneforge Mystic going to come into us, going to trigger the Sword of the Animist. Yep, going to go find a land. Also, they made their land drop for the turn. It's a Command Beacon. I actually shifted away from using Command Beacon a little bit. In my Aurelia deck, opponent's going to Corehaven it. Thank you, opponent. So in my Aurelia deck, I found that I wasn't using Command Beacon all that much, and I also figured out that if you get Sword of the Animist down and attack with Aurelia, that essentially just pays for the tax on her anyway. So I went back to actually putting a colored land into that slot. I got really heavy with utility lands in my Aurelia deck for a while, and I was actually having a lot of colored trouble. So Inventor's Fair is another one that I've actually dropped out because I wasn't using that ability all that much, and there are much cheaper ways to tutor for equipments, which are primarily the things that you're going to want in an Aurelia deck in terms of artifacts. So like I said, I've stopped using Inventor's Fair as well, preferring to have enough colored mana and, avoiding awkward hands where you just don't have the colors you need. So a Solemn Simulacrum coming down for the Tariel opponent. Fine card. They do have the pretty masterpiece art. One thing with attacking last turn is that we do leave ourselves open to the ally onslaught. It's kind of my mindset as a player. I was, in standard, I was a mono red burn player, so I just you don't block with that deck. You just keep attacking, and then, burn your way to the end of the game is pretty much the plan. So, yeah, I probably should have left Sylvia back right there and just kept her as a blocker, but hopefully the little bit of life that we're probably about to lose isn't that relevant. Ooh, no attacks from the General Tazri. All right. So General Tazri seems like they want to leave some defense up for the, small things that are accumulating on board. Khorvath is 6 mana. We do not have enough for that. Moonveil Dragon, also 6 mana. So this is actually a great turn for Sword of the Animist. Play the Sword of the Animist. Equip the Sword of the Animist. And we'll swing into the Aurelia opponent. Get a little bit of damage going on them. We'll get a Sword of the Animist trigger on the attack. I want to check one thing real quick. Do we have an Emeria in this deck? Because I don't remember. We do have Emeria, but we also have Valakut in play, which cares about the number of mountains. Ew. I think I'm going to go with a mountain right here. We do have some triple red and things like that in the hand, so the red mana will be good. And it's actually much easier to get, what do we need, 5 mountains for Valakut? That is so many less than the 7 plains that you need for Emeria. Did opponent Moldifor? Is that a thing that happened? Oh, they must have. Yeah, they played... I didn't even notice that. Aurelia mulligan to 4. That's rough. Well, they're going to be leaning really heavily on that Stonefort. That's the Mask of Memory. That's the card that they need. I mean, with Sword of the Animist, yeah, you kind of have to attack, but yeah, they're definitely going to come into us and get that card draw going. So they're about to find out just how good Mask of Memory is, if they weren't aware already. And a lot of people that haven't played it in Boros decks don't really give it a fair chance. It's so much better than Sword of Fire and Ice because it's so much cheaper. So the Aurelia opponent does not have 5 mana for Sword of Fire and Ice right here. They do, however, have the 3 mana for Mask of Memory. And this is going to draw them some cards, and they'll be able to keep making land drops in addition to the Sword of the Animist trigger. Mask of Memory just really does a lot for a very small amount of mana invested. So Sword of the Animist can trigger for the opponent. It's going to be War of the Sword of the Animist right here. Aurelia will undoubtedly win the War of the Sword of the Animists, if it comes to that. Our deck doesn't have a ton in the way of double combats. If it has anything at all, I'd have to take another look at it. Probably something that I should rectify at some point. Still need to get this deck tuned up just a little bit. I think when this deck gets tuned up, I think it's going to be a powerhouse. Again, because of that consistency of having the 3-mana double striker in your command zone and having the big beater to go with it that you can give double strike. Basically, you have a creature for all parts of the game. I've kind of gone with the Dragon Tribal route here. You could also build like a pretty heavy control kind of thing. Play like a ton of removal and a ton of stacks. And you could go that route and basically just rely really heavily on your 2 commanders and actually not have to run that many creatures in the deck. That'd probably be more of the approach for like a really high-powered play group. But, you know, I do like just slamming dragons. So, you know, we're going to have a good time doing that. Opponent does catch a Tithe and plays a Tithe. They discard an Alms Collector. Alms Collector, interesting card. Card that I should run a little bit more, quite honestly. But it doesn't hose all draw effects the way that you would. It's good against certain ones. It's good against, like, Drawing X. Does some real crazy stuff if someone plays a wheel. And that's the old Wheel of Fortune. So, well, we're going to get punished for not playing the Dragon Master Outcast. We do have a Sword of Light and Shadow in the deck, so shouldn't be too hard to get it back. I was hoping to keep that Blasphemous Act around, though. So how bad do we get punished? Could be worse. Mistveil Plains is also helpful. That can help us recycle some things. So we got a lot of ramp. Ideally, we're going to want to start finding some dragons. But this is also why having Khorvath in the command zone is really good, because as you see, we just lost our Moonveil Dragon, the big dragon in our hand, and we'll be in need of another, and we have one in the command zone. Also, this Taurine Mauler, very powerful if everyone leaves it alone. So the Aurelia opponent discarded a Blasphemous Act as well, had a Resplendent Angel. Maybe some sort of life gain theme. Umezawa's Jit, Well of Lost Dreams. Yeah, looks like Aurelia life gain might be their plan. Not sure if it's the main theme or if it's just kind of like a... Well, if you're going Well of Lost Dreams, I imagine that's got to be like... You probably got to be pretty focused in on life gain. Descendant's Path for the General Tazri. That's a pretty good card. I bought a bunch of these right before Commander 17 came out, and they never really went up in price. Hoping to make some profitable trades after, and that has not panned out for me. We draw a mountain. It's not really where we want it to be. So right here, I think it's going to be Thran Dynamo, Urza's Incubator, naming dragons. Going to play the Taurine Mauler for 1. Then we'll lay down the Mistveil Plains. Taurine Mauler does have double strike. Fun. Oh, what to do attacking-wise. I'm actually going to leave Taurine Mauler back. It could do a little bit of damage this turn, but it'll be a good blocker to keep things out. Plus the fact that we'll be attacking with Sylvia anyway. Ooh, Sylvia's a 3/3. I think it's time to give the General Tazri opponent another look. Sword of the Animus will trigger. Now we're on the try to loot all the lands out of our deck plan, because we do not want to draw any more lands. Drop down this. How are we doing on mountains? We have 1 mountain, 2 mountain. That'll give us 3 mountain. Next turn we can play a mountain. That'll be 4. We can attack. That's 5. Well, we could be active next turn on Valakut. Whew. So opponent takes the hit for double strike. They're up to 10 commander from us and down to 30. Blind Obedience, no. That's the anti-Boros card. What are you doing? That's rude. So Taurine Mauler are going to trigger. We're going to go always yes, and then auto that ability. Yeah, Blind Obedience can be really good against the fact that, like, we have multiple haste enablers, haste creatures, and, going to put us in super slow motion. I would love a Mask of Memory. That would make me happy to start doing some card draw. Don't be on the Mauler. It's on the Mauler. No. So Mauler going to go down to the Path of Exile. Yeah, that wheel got us pretty good. Those turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 wheels, they'll hit you hard. Really was trying to set up for the Blasphemous Act, Moonveil Dragon, and Dragon Master Outcast, and our plans got wrecked. So the General Tazri opponent said their deck was about 13 tickets on Magic Online, so it's a pretty inexpensive deck. Yeah, let's keep going on the mountain plan, trying to get Valakut active. Assuming the sword sticks around, we'll work on the Emeria plan after that. Also, we don't have Emeria yet, so now I kind of wish I attacked something. That's disappointing. Could use a really big draw off the top, either card draw or just a nice dragon. Well, the dragon's going to come down tap, so it will be in slow motion. Opponent going to send their Stoneforge Mystic into the Tariel. Yeah, they should probably just attack us. They gotta keep hitting with that Mask of Memory. Opponent is likely to block with that Solemn Simulacrum so that they can get the card draw. Though, interesting situation right here. Like, with Sylvia and Double Strike and these allies sitting around, I mean, I know the card draw is really good on Solemn Simulacrum, but, like, sometimes you just want a blocker. Opponent deciding to opt for the card draw, which can't fault them for that. I probably would too. I guess I also don't know what's in their hand. If they have something in their hand that, you know, a board wipe or another big creature that they can cast, then obviously the right call to cash in the Solemn Simulacrum. But yeah, you know, there are reasons that you may want to keep it. Our Sylvia's been more threatening than you'd expect it to be. Imperial Recruiter for the Aurelia opponent. You know, that's one that I never really used all that much. Now they're pretty cheap as I understand it, so something I should probably take another look at. I do run the white version, and it comes in really handy. Most often, I usually find Stoneforge Mystic with it, but there are other things that are helpful as well. Gonna go for a Tazri. Yeah, Indestructible is cool. That's a Gisela. Gisela comes down tapped. Pretty big play from our opponent. How to deal with that Gisela is going to be interesting. Valakut will do 1 damage to Gisela. That's it's not great. Dragon Tempest loses a little bit of value with our Taurine Mauler getting exiled. General Tazri coming into play, sure. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an ally creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then you pay Wooburg. Ally creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of color among creatures you control. Seems pretty good. So opponent will get the search and will trigger the Hada Freeblade. Oop, opponent says they clicked on the wrong card with the General Tazri. Whoops. Talus Paladin's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Lifelink, +1/+1 counters. Sure. Oh, we draw a mountain? Really? There were like 2 left in the deck. Oh, that's painful. We're not in a great place now. Yeah, I mean, we'll play the mountain. Valakut will do double damage to our opponent's stuff. But I think now we kind of need stuff to, like, kill Tariel? We'll get our commander in. It'll come in tapped, but actually, before we do that, so play Dragon Tempest. When we get the mountain, that'll do 1 damage to Gisela. When we play our commander, that'll do 0 damage to Gisela. When we get the second land, that will do 1 damage to Gisela. Not quite enough to be useful. Someone says if anyone has Austere Command, now's the time to drop it. Someone said my favorite card. Don't leave home without one. Actually, this deck doesn't have Austere Command. It does have Hour of Revelation, though. The 6 converted mana cost slot getting pretty clunky in this deck, so... And we may actually get started. I mean, I think we got to attack into the Tariel with the Gisela right here. Don't love the fact that we're, like, open to an attack, and, you know, 2 1s and 3 4s are pretty big when their damage is doubled. It's quite a bit of life loss. So there's 1 mountain left in the deck. We'll probably grab that next turn. Right here, I'm gonna grab the plains. You should be fine. Just give me a call if you get stuck. So we get in for not very much damage. We control 1 dragon. Well, that being the case, just dome the Aurelia opponent. They're playing a life gain deck, too. When I think about that. The dragon will gain haste, but it does come in tapped. Not super helpful. Yeah, that's what's interesting about Gisela, is that it makes it really hard to attack into the player with Gisela, and really incentivizes you to want to attack or do damage to your other opponents. But right now, I feel like we maybe need to, like, gang up on the Gisela a little bit. So yeah, we are wide open to an attack. Makes me feel not great. Would love to see another wheel effect. I mean, our hand can only get better from 3 lands. Tazri coming down. Extort will trigger. So Stoneforge Mystic into us, and Imperial Recruiter into the Gisela. The Imperial Recruiter will actually do 0 damage to the Gisela. The Sword of the Animist will trigger, so more land for our opponent. And we're going to get dinged for 4 on the Stoneforge, and opponent will get to draw. Hopefully they draw removal for that Gisela. Life is going to be real tough if no one gets rid of that thing. Lantax for the Tariel opponent. Harsh Mercy. Each player chooses a creature type, destroys all creatures that aren't of that type. They can't be regenerated. So we would choose Dragon to save our dragons, right? So we'll be choosing Dragon. So, interesting card. I haven't really seen a lot of Harsh Mercy. Let's just take stock of what that actually accomplished. Opponent didn't choose allies? Weird. Well, that's going to throw this math off a little bit. So we lost 1 creature. The Aurelia opponent lost 1 creature in the Imperial Recruiter. Ally opponent lost 3 creatures. Don't entirely understand how. You got... Oh, I think they did the opposite. Angel, Dragon, Artificer. Oh, and Tazri is indestructible. Oh, yep, Gisela coming into us. This is going to hurt. At least the allies are down, because I was actually worried about kind of getting blindsided by the allies. Ooh, that's a hit. So we take 10. We go down to 21. There's a deafening Clarion in this deck. I would not be upset to see that thing right now. Sword of Light and Shadow would also be a great place to be. I put a bunch of cool cards in the deck for situations like right now. I just hope we draw into them. Blind Obedience really making life tough for us, though, because even if we find one of our big dragons, it's still coming in tapped. We can't get those combat effects right away. Pretty frustrating. Such a good card, but so painful against so many of the decks that I play. It's also awkward, too, when someone else has a lot of stuff out and you're trying to get blockers down and your blockers come. Plenty of people die that way, too, where, like, they just can't get untapped blockers in. That's a Panharmonicon for the General Tazri. Seems pretty good. Hour of Revelation is a beautiful card. That'll get rid of everything except Tajik. How to do this? Start by putting Sword of the Animist on Khorvath. Sad that we're going to be losing a lot of cool stuff in these enchantments and artifacts, but I think Hour of Revelation has to happen right here. So Khorvath up to a 4/5. Its damage will be cut in half by the Gisela if we swing into Gisela. Well, I guess that means we just swing into someone else then. Losing all that damage doesn't seem worth it at this point, especially since we know we're just going to get rid of it. And that's why Gisela's so good. She incentivizes you to attack elsewhere. And a lot of times, that's enough for people. So Khorvath going to swing. We're going to get a mountain. Going to use the Valakut, dome them for a little bit. So they're down to 32 off the Valakut. That's a whopping 6 damage. So they take 8 more off the Khorvath, being doubled from the Gisela. Pretty nasty. So they're down to 24, which means I think it's time to, we'll dome the ally opponent a little bit, hit them with the Valakut as well, use the ability. So they go down to 22. Now it's our Revelation time. We will do this the right way and make sure to use our Thran Dynamo first. Play the Hour of Revelation. Hope no indestructible effects go off. That would be real bad. So everything except the Tajik getting wiped away. We've still got some floating mana. Let's get our... How much mana do we have? We have 3 in the pool, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Excuse me, we have 10 total mana. Khorvath will be 8, and Sylvia will be 5. Yeah, so I guess we just replay Khorvath right here. And like I was saying earlier, if you really want to build a more spiky version of this deck, the thing to do is probably just rely heavily on your commanders and not actually run that many creatures in the deck and just run tons of removal, some stack stuff, just a lot of things to stop your opponents, and then just rely on your commanders for the combat damage. So anyway, Khorvath's back in play, and we will pass turn like that. That Hour of Revelation was huge. Gisela needed to go. That Blind Obedience really causing problems for us. Also gets rid of the Aurelia's equipments, which is their primary way of generating advantage. Got rid of ours too, but we're also running low on basics in the deck now, so opponent's discussing the Hour of Revelation play, and here comes Aurelia. You want to talk about 6 mana, 3/4s, Aurelia probably a little bit better than Khorvath, at least by itself, but nice. So Aurelia going to swing into the Tariel opponent on their first combat, and opponent going to do the same thing again. So Tariel taking a pretty big hit right here. They have some shenanigans in their deck, so... looking at what's in their graveyard already, they had the wheel that they played, they had Reanimate. Anya, Anya's not too scary. Utter End, classic Mardu staple, but that Reanimate tells me there's probably Animate Deads and more of that type of effect in there, which would be really good at this point in the game. Sarah Ascendant coming down, not nearly as threatening when opponent's at 24, so we'll want to keep them below the 30 threshold. Opponent has a Buried Ruin, which is actually pretty helpful. I would sign up for a Buried Ruin. Maybe Valakut needs to become a Buried Ruin. I don't know. It's probably not, like, I think we have just about all the mountains in our deck in play. We triggered it twice. It was cool because of the Gisela, but I don't know if ultimately it's all that effective. Hey, that's a Ray of Dawnbringer. So Tariel Angels, it looks like, with Anya, Gisela, and Rhea. I love me some Ray of Dawnbringer, but that thing is scary. Wrong art, though. I don't care for that art. I like the 10th edition art, personally. Though I do like the flavor text on this version better.
You have not died until I consent.
But, hey, that's a worthy target of some removal. Munda, Ambush Leader, coming down. Let's see, 3/4 with haste. That rally ability looks really long, so I'm not going to read it, but, top 4 cards, reveal any number of allies. Put those on top of the library and the rest on the bottom. It's fine. So, everyone very similar in life total. 24, 22, 22, and we are at 21. Got 3 players with flying creatures. Allies might be a little bit lacking in the flying department. Grove Tender Druids, not familiar with that one. It or another ally enters the battlefield under your control. Pay 1 if you do, create a 1/1 green plant token. You know. If this game stays primarily an aerial-based game, then that may not matter too much. We draw a Scale Lord Reckoner. Interesting. If nothing else, that'll give us a blocker, which I like. So, what can we shoot if we play the mountain? That'll give us 3 damage. I think right here it's going to be swing into the Tariel opponent. Recast Sylvia. Should we tap our lands properly? Partner ability will trigger. What to shoot with... Man, Valakut is just short of shooting this Aurelia, which would be ideal. If Gisela comes back to play, we can do that, but then we have to deal with Gisela, and that's not great. I think it's just going to be... How much damage does Aurelia do to us if we don't... Oh, we'll have 1 blocker in Scale Lord. Okay. So I think we're going to swing like this, send them both into Tariel. And even if we lose Sylvia, we can still burn Rhea down with the Mountain and Valakut. Nope. No blocks from our opponent. Ooh, down to 12. That's a big old hit. And then, again, we're back to the question of what to shoot. Yeah, that thing doesn't... probably going to be the Sarah Ascendant. So, play the Mountain. Shoot the Sarah Ascendant. Really don't want that thing to get going again. So, I don't know. We got some value out of the Valakut. Maybe it's not the worst thing. Probably could use a few more mountains in the deck, though, if we really wanted to focus in on that. We will play the Scale Lord Reckoner, and we'll pass the turn. Ooh, nice. They Swords to Plowshares on the Rhea, so Rhea down. That threat has been ended. Mana Crypt for the Aurelia opponent. We do actually have 2 white permanents, so we can Misspell Plane something at some point. I may do that. Opponent cracks the Berry Drone when they get the Jitte. Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. So Jit is back. Notice that I say it differently each time. So we're going to equip that onto the Aurelia. Sure. No attacks? Do they have 6? Yep, they have 6th. That's a big loss of damage, is what that is. So, big punt by the Aurelia opponent right there. Opponent says, Willie Shame Scoop, find out at 11. Did I say that in a game once? I feel like I might have. Willie Shame Scoop, more at 11. Opponent says, yes, I did say that once. Oh, yeah. Well, let's see what the Tariel opponent has. Platinum Angel. Oy. Well, that does get shot down by the Jit after not too long. Platinum Angel's interesting in that, like, it's not super threatening, but they can't lose the game. And that does cause problems. General Tazri coming back. So the ally is going to trigger up. We got the Munda. They'll get to look at the top 4. The Grove Tender can make some plants. And General Tazri gets to search for an ally, reveal it, and put it into the hand. Still anyone's game at this point. We're in need of a big draw. Aurelia is scary. Opponent did leave their Core Haven up, so that's a thing. Interestingly, if they try to Core Haven one of our dragons, we can shoot down one of their permanents. Ryusei, I believe is how it's pronounced. Creatures without flying. Well, that'll hit the allies hard. We'll do nothing to the Tajik and nothing to the Aurelia, but it does give us a dragon. Crap, I forgot to use the Misspell Planes. Whoops. A lot of things that the Valakut does not kill. I think we're going to take a shot into Aurelia right here. They're not going to be able to block super well. All of our creatures will kill Aurelia. They can always recast it, but it does take a lot of mana to do that. So let's swing in that way. I don't know what's in their hand, but if it were up to me, I'd probably block, get the counters, and then just recast Aurelia. I think it's too much damage to take all of that. By blocking, they would save themselves 8 damage if they block the Scale Lord Reckoner. Oh, they take the hit. They go down to 6. Wow. Make this interesting and play the Mountain. Valakut. Ryusei does not hit players. Sad face. I think that's our last Mountain, by the way, too. Makes me sad. Although we don't have Plateau yet. Plateau is a Mountain, so there is one more in our deck. A fetch land would get us there. But by that point, they'll likely have Jit counters. And before I forget, I'm going to put the Hour of Revelation on the bottom of our library. If we can find a fetch and crack and shuffle, that sort of thing, who knows, it may come back. It's rare that it does, but you never know. And as long as we sit here with Ryusei, it's a 5/5 flying double strike. That should keep most things out. Oh, opponents at 3 life with the Mana Crypt. Did they win the flip? I forgot they had the Mana Crypt. Hope they're feeling lucky. Goes down to the Mana Crypt. Nice. Oh, I mean, they lost a lot by not attacking last turn. That hurt them so incredibly badly. Gotta feel bad about that. They should have had some counters on the Jit so they could have gained enough life to... And had they had counters on the Jit, I probably would have used the landfall trigger differently. But yeah, that was a pretty big punt. Opponent says, stuff you hate to see happen. That's what the Tariel opponent says to Aurelia. Opponent says they should have used the deflecting palm after all. If they had one, yeah, they probably should have. That would have been a good idea. Gilded Lotus for the Tariel. Sure. Not out of this yet. Tariel has shown that they have big stuff in their deck. A reanimate spell on one of these nasty angels, Gisela, it would be bad times for us. Even just casting their commander is a pretty sizable blocker. That's a Magister of Worth. We'll be 3 votes. Pretty good chance we're going to get wiped right here. So, enters the battlefield. Starting with you, each player votes for Grace or Condemnation. If Grace gets more votes, each player returns each creature card from their graveyard to the battlefield. If Condemnation gets more votes, or the vote is tied, destroy all creatures, then destroy Magister of Worth. Destroying all creatures is clearly safer. What do we get back? We get back a Moonveil Dragon, Dragon Master Outcast. Grace has 2 votes. Ooh, opponent gets back a Gisela, and well, actually, it doesn't even matter. We just lose. We lose because it's 2 versus 1. So I guess we'll just go Condemnation. It doesn't really matter at that point. Oh, there's so many ally triggers. We may lose to allies. We do get Moonveil Dragon. That's something. Can make our creatures big. Ideally, we don't have a sack effect of any kind. A sack effect on the Ryusei would be most helpful. But I mean, opponent has Gisela. They get a Solemn. Gisela and Platinum Angel means that damage doesn't kill them, and damage, I don't know. General Tazri is going to need to like find some other way to, well, or they'd have to remove the Platinum Angel. But yeah, I think we're not in a great spot now. The board wipe would have been much better because then we just recast our commanders and keep going about things that way. Oh, there's a Scale Lord Reckoner trigger. Yes, please. So this one, whenever an ally enters the battlefield, deals damage to target creature with flying equal to the number of allies you control. Well, we're going to be shooting some things down. Ooh, opponent can shoot all the angels, too. They have not shot in the Ryusei yet, for likely obvious reasons. So it appears that we'll get 3 Scale Lord Reckoner triggers. Which allies are the strongest? That one's pretty good, I think. That one probably has to go. Creatures you control get +2/+2. That one seems pretty good. The flying one is not great, that's for sure. So I think the flying one, the commander, so at least they'll have to recast it. It's died a few times, I think. This +2/+2 one also seems like a good thing to get rid of. The damage will be halved to the Gisela player's angels. Hope opponent took that into consideration when doing their math. Otherwise, they may actually just survive. Especially because of the way that our triggers stacked. We shot down some of the allies, so there are less allies in play now. Oh, and the allies are now absolutely massive. Our Khorvath goes down. Our Scale Lord Reckoner goes down. And opponent's stuff survives. That's bad. That is very bad. Due to the way that trigger stacked and the allies getting killed. Opponent says they most likely just gave the game to the ally opponent. Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. I mean, actually, they're still in good shape. They have Platinum Angel and Gisela. I don't know how the General Tazri is going to get through that. We're in some serious trouble, though. Our hand is empty. Beastcaller Savant. It's an ally. Question is, how many allies can opponent lay down this turn? And, yeah, if they want to kill us, we're probably dead. Being that all of the damage is doubled to us. A Resolute, a Blade Master, you say. Creatures you control gain double strike. Yup, that's probably going to finish it up. Unless, no, they all gain double strike, so that's probably not going to work. Actually, opponent attacks in a way where we may survive. So opponent's going to Core Haven the 7/7 Beastmaster. We've got 3 creatures coming into us. Yeah, I mean, we definitely block the big one. Ooh, damage will be doubled based on the Gisela. And this is the next biggest one, so we'll block that. And, yeah, then we'll let that resolve. Opponent can do some blocking with the Solemn Simulacrum and the Magister of Worth. The Magister, I believe, should survive, based on the Gisela. So Ryusei going to trigger, and this should wipe the, wipes the allies' board. Yeah, this is not great. We haven't shuffled our library yet, so no way to get Hour of Revelation back. We draw a land off the top. That's really not what we're going to want to see. Play our commander. It's going to partner. It's going to be 7 to recast this thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's only 6 mana. I'm just going to hold on to the land because I want opponent to at least think I have something instead of just seeing an open hand where they know that they can do whatever they want. But we're still in trouble. We are in big trouble. Gisela and Platinum Angel. Also, this Anya finally starting to look decent. At 7/7 Indestructible. This card is just not designed great for Commander. It's good if you're doing the, what was that, Conspiracy? If you're actually playing Conspiracy and have the right number of players, I'm sure it's a very good card, but yeah, it's not designed super well for Commander. There are so many better things in the 5-drop slot now. I mean, now for that type of deck, Lyra Dawnbringer, yes please. Even just Archangel of Thune, I really like. The life gain and the making your team bigger is very cool. I think the opponent is just short of being able to kill both of us on damage. If we chump block with Khorvath. Yep, now they have enough. That's a Path to Exile on our Khorvath. We've been Path to Exile twice this game. It's been not great. Get our very last basic land. Herald of War coming down. Yeah, it's not really necessary at this point. Archangel Avacyn coming down. Sure, things will be indestructible. Painful Truce, that's a card we could have used somewhere along the way. Just want to go into attacks. Sending in more than enough to kill us. Don't think they sent in 11. Oh, yep, nope, just enough. Yep. So we both go down. Tariel, Reckoner of Souls, getting there. Played by Birchie84. Yeah, the Magister of Worth. Really doing a lot late in the game there. Having a Platinum Angel and a Gisela in play turns out is a pretty good thing to do. Ally opponent said they had an eviction next. Ooh. Yep, should have played that. Well, I guess they didn't have it, but... Anyway, I want to take a quick second to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. But anyway, so this has been Sylvia Brightspear and Khorvath Brightflame. I could probably do a few tweaks to the deck, maybe a little bit more card draw. That was kind of the issue this game, is we just didn't draw any cards other than that wheel, which just wheeled into lands and ramp, and not really anything to play with lands and ramp. Any of our dragons right here would have been nice. I might add something like a memory jar to the deck. To do a little soul searching about that Valakut, maybe it's worth having a Buried Ruin in the deck, since that's a very good card to have around. I don't know, maybe the deck needs one or two more creatures in it. Both games that I played, the mana's been pretty good, just that we didn't have anything to cast with it, so I'll need to test with it a little bit more. Otherwise, it played pretty well. We got wrapped up in that wheel in the worst kind of way. I was really setting up to slow roll that Blasphemous Act for a while and keep generating value with the Sword of the Animist, and the wheel just said no to all of that. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.